Hey, welcome back to Vintage on Vintage. I'm Steve, and well, today I'm wearing my Dodgers cap because I am doing a VR for Mark's Dodger cards. Mark just recently passed 330 subscribers, and he wants to do a VR. As a matter of fact, this morning when I looked at Mark's channel, he was pushing 350. So I will link him below. If you haven't seen Mark's channel, please take a look because you'll love it. It's a great channel. So what Mark asked us to do for the VR was to talk about players from our favorite team that are in the Hall of Very Good. Not quite Hall of Famers, but very good, or at least they're not in the Hall of Fame at this moment. So I will do that. Once again, it'll be with the Dodgers because that's my favorite team. And then Mark also asked us to shout out 3 YouTube channels that are also not in the Hall of Fame yet. At least some of the ones I want to shout out, I think will be eventually. So without any further ado, how about we flip this camera and take a look at both the channels and the players that I want to share with you today. Okay, so the channels I want to share with you, although they're not in the Hall of Fame yet, YouTube Hall of Fame yet, because they're not eligible, they're like those players that are like Freddie Freeman, who's just putting up the numbers, and I think at some point you're going to see these guys get in. The first one, staying with my Dodger theme, is Rick Acosta, Dodger card collector. Rick has a great channel and a fantastic collection. He's out there, supporting the community. Super great guy. Rick and I kind of have almost the same, we almost grew up the same. He grew up in Southern California, as did I. So for me, I love listening to some of his stories, but he's got a fantastic channel. I'm going to link all these channels down below. So, I would encourage you, if you have not, for any reason, seen any of these channels, please give them a look and give them a sub because they're great channels. Next up for me is my partner in crime for picking for bargain hunters, and that's John. John P. Collects. John got a fantastic channel. He's a fantastic guy. The only reason I think he's not in the hall yet is from timing. He's pushing 1,000 subs, but he's just, he's got a great channel, and more importantly, I've got to spend a lot of time with John and get to know him as a person. And as good as his channel is, he's even a better person. So, John P. Collects is the next channel I want to shout out. And then last, but definitely not least, is Mitchell, White Sox fan card collector. Mitchell also has a really good channel, and I'm lucky enough to have gotten to meet Mitchell. He and I and Jason, Everyday Card Collector, have gotten together and gone to shows. We all live in the Chicagoland area. Mitchell just recently passed 500 subs. He's run multiple marathons. He's a great guy, and he's got a fantastic collection. He's a set builder, so he's got an amazing set collection. And then, he collects across a lot of different eras. Like, he's got one of the best Albert Pujols collections you're going to see, and he's crushing his Diamond Stars collections. So Mitchell, great channel, great guy. So check him out. So those are the 3 channels. Once again, they're all going to be down below. Please check them out. Give them a sub. Now let's check out the players that I want to talk about. So, Mark, I want to share some Dodger cards, and I'm trying to do some players that you didn't share. A couple of the guys like Jim Gilliam and Carl Furillo, Davey Lopes, they were on my list. But there are plenty of Dodger players that I can share. But the first one I know you did share, and to me, it's this guy right here. It's Steve Garvey, and I'm going to be honest, I do not understand why he is not in the Hall of Fame. I get WAR. I'm not a huge WAR fan. I'm more of a eye appeal kind of guy, and I watched this guy play for 10 to 12 years. He was one of the best players in all of baseball. 200 hit seasons, like 2,600 base hits, multiple All-Star appearances, an MVP, Gold Gloves, 1,300 consecutive game streak. I just don't get why he's not in the Hall of Fame. For me, when you think of the 70s, in the 80s, you know, the late 70s or mid 70s to the 80s. This guy's one of those players that comes to mind. So I did want to give a shout out for Steve Garvey. The next three guys are all in the Hall of the Very Good. And the first guy I want to talk about is the Penguin, Ron Cey, Steve Garvey's running mate. You know, Cey was an amazing ball player. He had a really, really solid career. He had a 53.7 WAR, 6-time All-Star, World Series MVP. You know, for his career, he had 316 home runs, 1,139 RBIs, 1,868 hits, and he hit 262. Cey had 200 RBI seasons in his career, and 5 times he had 90-plus RBIs. And, you know, if you look at his 162-game average, it would have been 25 home runs, 89 RBIs, and a 261 batting average. You know, defensively, he was solid. He didn't have the greatest range, and he didn't have the best arm, but he got the job done. You know, the biggest downfall for Ron Cey was he just played in an era when 2 of the best third basemen of all time played. You know, he played in the National League the same time Mike Schmidt played, and, you know, I think Mike's the best ever. And then if you go over to the American League, you had George Brett. So that's one of the reasons, you know, that Cey probably doesn't get as much recognition as he should. But, you know, when he played, he was a fantastic ball player. So Ron Cey, that's the first person I wanted to talk about. Next person up is Maury Wills. And, you know, Maury Wills was just such an integral part of those Dodger teams in the 1960s that won 3 championships. And those teams were built around pitching and defense. They won a ton of games, 3-2, 2-1, 4-3. And Maury Wills, well, he was the catalyst for that offense. As a matter of fact, this book here, The Last Innocents, by Michael Leahy, it's a story about the turbulent 60s and the Dodgers of the 60s. And it's a great baseball book. And if you're a Dodger fan like you are, Mark, it's a great book to read. I really enjoyed this book. It talks a lot about the value that Maury Wills brought to baseball and the Dodgers at that time. You know, Maury Wills sort of reinvigorated the running game. And, you know, he was a solid ball player. He had a 39.6 WAR. He made 5 All-Star. He had 5 All-Star seasons, played in 7 All-Star games because 2 of those years they played multiple games. 2-time Gold Glove winner. He was an MVP in 1962 when he broke the record, stealing 104 bases and scoring 130 runs. 3-time world champion. You know, for his career, 2,134 hits, 1,067 runs, a 281 batting average, and 586 stolen bases, which are still 20th all time. So, you know, Maury Wills, he's one of those guys that probably should get a little more recognition for the kind of player he was, on Hall of Fame kind of potential. When you look at shortstops of the 50s and 60s and you compare his statistics to them, he holds a case there. He's a good ball player. So Maury Wills is the next person that I would want to talk about. And then the last person I wanted to share is this guy right here, and this is Andy Messersmith. And, you know, Andy Messersmith, I did a video not too long ago about the best pitchers of the 70s, and this guy, he didn't make my top 10 list, but he probably could have or should have. He was right on the peripheral. He was a great pitcher. You know, unfortunately, his career was a little short. Up until he was 30, he had an amazing career, but, you know, some injuries and ended his career early in his early 30s, so only played 12 seasons. But he had a 40.2 WAR. He was 130 and 99 for his career, and he had a 2.86 ERA for his career. He was a 2-time 20-game winner, and he was a really good pitcher. As a matter of fact, when he was He was drafted in the 1966 draft, and what the scouting report on this guy was, he's got 3 pitches. Two you can't hit, and 1 you can't touch. That's how good he was. In 1969, when he became a starter, Billy Martin, who was managing in the American League, said he had the best stuff in the league. At some point, he wanted, he was a member of the Angels, and they were not a very good team. He played his first 5 seasons with the Angels. He was 59-47 in 5 years with a 2.78 ERA, 42 complete games and 11 shutouts. And then he had an injury season in 71, and in 72, I think it was, they traded him to the Dodgers as part of a deal that included Frank Robinson going to the Angels. And for the Dodgers, he pitched 4 seasons with the Dodgers, 55-34, 2.67 ERA, 43 complete games, and 13 shutouts. So he was a really good ball player. I think he's best known, right? He wanted a no trade from the Dodgers, no trade clause. They wouldn't give it to him. So he actually played without a contract, and he's one of the reasons that, kind of free agency came about. He signed with Atlanta. He had some issues with Atlanta, some injuries, some stress trying to keep up to the big contract he signed. But even so, he was still 16-15 with a 3.49 ERA in the 2 years he was there. But arm injuries kind of wore him down, and after he left the Dodgers, he only pitched for 3 or 4 seasons. But, I think the big factor here with Mr. Messersmith, his 2.86 ERA ranks him 6th of any lifetime ERA, 6th lifetime ERA in any pitcher of the live ball era. So from 19 and 20 on, he has the 6th best ERA, and it's the same ERA as Jim Palmer and Tom Seaver. So this guy was on his way to a Hall of Fame career. It kind of filtered out early, but at the end of the day, he was a really, really good pitcher back in the 70s, and one that deserves to get some attention. So there you have it, Mark. Those are my Dodgers. Hall of very good. I'm hoping that at some point we can say with Mr. Garvey that he's a Hall of Famer, but only time will tell. So anyway, folks, I appreciate y'all taking the time to let me share my channels and my cards with you. As always, until we talk again, please stay safe, keep collecting. I'll talk to you soon.